I have a confession to make. I am intimidated to make this video because I would like to do it with complete and utter justice. As you can clearly see, it's about synchronicity, which is also part of the name of my YouTube channel, Love and Synchronicity. So the concept in and of itself has been part of our overall species zeitgeist for a while and part of our common nomenclature, though I feel like it's still widely misunderstood. What I would like to do today is to give you not just common talking points, because there have been hundreds of videos made about synchronicity, especially in the age of AI slop, but I would also like to give you a nuanced perspective and at least one story uh, of mine where I would say, or dare I say, I was synchronized. I had a synchronized experience. So starting with Carl Jung. Oh, also, I just want to preface this video by saying, as you can clearly see, I do not edit my videos. It's one straight take. But I do have a structure here because I want to give you straight facts as opposed to just going off of the old domosphere. So going to Carl Jung, which I briefly brought him up before, he was actually the one who coined synchronicity. Carl Jung himself actually came up with a bunch of revolutionary concepts. He talked about the psychological archetypes. He talked about the anima versus the animus. He did a bunch of dream work, and he actually worked with Freud quite a bit. They were contemporaries. They started a relationship back in 1907 and eventually parted ways because Freud was hyperfixated on repressed trauma, especially in the realm of sexuality being the prime motivator of everything in life. Freud had his thing. We all know that. So they eventually parted ways, but Carl Jung had coined the term synchronicity back in the late 1920s, which by its own definition just means meaningful coincidences. So reading off of this, it's the occurrence of two or more events that seem meaningfully related but have no obvious causal connection. So, what is it about having a causal connection? I would say that we are causal beings. We are always looking for a reason as to what is or what could potentially be. We are always looking for cause and effect. So, whether it's through the lens of being spiritual or being religious, or dare I say superstitious, or even if we say we don't believe in anything, I still would say there's a causal value behind it. We're just kind of structured that way, and it's a lens to look at the world and just how we perceive the world and just an overall perspective. Carl Jung really believed that. He really believed that the internal state, especially within dreams and things of that nature, had a connection or had a handshake with just basically everything going on outside of you. That nothing really was, at its core, a coincidence. Everything had meaning to it. It was a way of the universe reaching out and saying, hey, pay attention to this thing. Another great example, if you would, is if you look at what's called the reticular activating system. So going into just a little bit of science here, an example would be like when you buy that red car, you start to see that red car up and down the highway and just about everywhere you go. You just start seeing the same thing that really stood out to you initially. I'm going to give you a story. It's a little bit overused, so stop me if you've heard this one. But a great example of synchronicity, or a great story a lot of people like to bring up, is the famous scarab story. So basically what happened was Carl Jung was sitting down with a patient who was hyper rationalized in her thinking, and like that's just her framework of how she viewed the world. And she had described to him a experience she had to where she had a dream about a golden scarab. It was presented to her, it was gifted to her, and shortly later, while they were having their session, Carl Jung had heard a gentle tapping on his window. He went to go open up his window, and lo and behold, he found a scarab beetle. And went back, like picked it up, went back to her and was like, hey, here's your beetle. Needless to say, it kind of just really like blew her paradigm, it blew her mind, and it really changed the trajectory of how she thought about the world and just, once again, her overall perspective. So, with that being said, moving forward, I really just want to give you an example of what I have. And also, actually, even before that, sorry, just kind of. But like even before that, if you want a more precise definition and dare I say wordy, and when I say wordy, I'm not saying that in a bad sense. But if you want a more just precise definition, even more examples, I'm going to link a video here by Pursuit of Wonder. I've been following Pursuit of Wonder for a long time. He makes really phenomenal videos. He's got pictures, animations, just the whole nine. I would definitely check him out. And he actually made a video that really inspired this one. So I would definitely check him out. But I would like to go over a story really fast in the best way that I can to kind of give you an example of synchronicity. And from that point, I just want to tell you how it's potentially imperative for your life and why you should pay attention to it. So my story is, and I also don't really know the rules of the YouTubes quite yet. I've only had a handful of videos, not even a handful. So I'm just going to put it like this. Many moons ago, many years ago, I had done, just Google Terrence McKenna heroic dose, if you want. I had done what's called a macro trip. And to be completely utterly honest with you, it was a rough time. It was a very rough trip. And I was actually coming down, being regrounded or replanted in 3D reality, coming off of this bad trip. And a song had came on. I'm going to say her name because she's, you'll know in a second. Came on the Alexa. Okay, she didn't stop. She's still playing her rain sound, so that's good. Came on her, and the song was called, or is called, The White Feather. Now, The White Feather, give me 1 second, sorry. Un momento, because I had a whole thing on this. Give me 1 second here, sorry. Scattered brain. All right, so The White Feather was by Diane and David Arkenstone. Just wanted to give them credit really fast here. And the song played, and it really just helped me ground back into physical reality and helped me calm down and really relaxed my nervous system. And there was an overall sense of almost the Lion King, the circle of life. Everything's going to be okay. You're comforted. Everything's beautiful. Everything has its place. That was the overall messaging within the song. And even in a sober sense, if I listen to that song, like it always calls me back to that feeling. Like it's never failed. So when I looked up the spiritual meaning behind just the white feather in and of itself, it actually means purity, divine protection, and hope, which was the characteristics of everything I was going through. This year has been abundantly hard and really difficult. It's been my grinding year. I have been doing so many different things just to try to get my life on track because, I mean, I'm just going to be honest with you. I had gone through a breakup back in November, and I've been just really steadily rebuilding myself and just trying to figure out my own sense of self worth and just who I am as a person. And I've been really grinding to find ways of getting back in touch with the foundations of who I am as a person. With that being said, I just kept on feeling that even though I implemented all these new habits, I was just hitting just this either wall or ceiling. I just wasn't getting past a certain point and nothing was really changing that. So I decided it's been many years to once again do a macro trip. I had done the macro trip and it was actually hard again. It was like purging out a bunch of stuff that just wasn't serving me. I was coming back to physical reality, and what ended up happening was I was asking Alexa, see, she stopped that time. Anyway, I had asked her if she could play The White Feather, just to once again help me reground or whatever, get back to that feeling that I had before about being divinely protected. I asked her to do that, and she put on a completely different song that started with White Feather. But what was interesting is this song was 100% new by an artist I always listened to, who has always spoken to my soul. So I found that to be like just really intriguing just by its own nature. So the song's by Lana Del Rey, and she has a new song, a relatively new, called White Feather Hawktail Deer Hunter. And something about this song is just like the definition of spring and the definition of just renewal and just an abundance of hope, inspiration, and just everything else in between. That was my reaction to it, or that's how I feel about it. Maybe her definition or why she put out the song is completely different, but that's how I feel about it, just being comforted and being renewed and everything else in between. Also, I just want to mention too that I had gone to go see my family for Christmas. So this was before the macro trip. I had gone to see my family in Oregon, and the Airbnb was very New Orleans esque, if you would. I had gone out to the yard, saw this big tree, looked up, and saw a white owl. I don't think I've ever seen an owl in person in my entire life. So, white feather again. I'm just saying that really stood out to me, and it's been a reoccurring theme, especially within this year, about renewal and just trying to rebuild myself. And to me, that's my own little synchronicity to be like, hey, things don't make sense right now. Things feel like madness, but you might be on some sort of right track. And that's what's going to segue to my next and final point before we wrap up the video. I think synchronicity is imperative because if we are causal beings, if we are going to choose, once again, what we're going to believe in is just part of our fundamental or foundation within a belief system, I think it is a good modality to utilize. I think if you look through the lens of everything has its place, everything can be synchronistic, if you would, if you will. Things can be synchronized. I'm always going to get the best version of this reality. It is a quantum concept. So I just think it's a way to view the world. We talked about belief systems in the last video, or one of the last, and I just believe it's a good trajectory to focus on. Maybe if I find out something better or have a different modality, I could definitely present that as well. But that's what I believe about synchronicity. That's the reason why it's the part of the name of my YouTube channel, just in and of itself. And it is important. To me, it is, and just for the trajectory of our species altogether. So that's all I got for you today. Let me know what you think, and yeah,